Despite Beijing's insistent push for one country, two systems, Taiwan isn't having any of it. They innovate, they prosper, and they challenge the colossal ambitions of their massive neighbor. In fact, Taiwan's resilience is, dare we say it, a humiliation for China. Welcome to Living History. You know, Taiwan humiliating China isn't exactly fresh news. This subtle power play has its roots entrenched deep in history. In 1949, the map of East Asia underwent a significant transformation. As the residue of the Chinese Civil War settled, China found itself divided. Chairman Mao Zedong's Communist Party, having claimed a pyrrhic victory on the mainland, established the People's Republic of China. Meanwhile, the defeated nationalists, led by Chiang Kai-shek, officially known as the Kuomintang, KMT, didn't exactly take their ball and go home. Nope, they took their government and their constitution and relocated to the island of Taiwan. Bringing with them a trove of Chinese cultural and historical treasures, they set up the Republic of China, ROC. Now, Communist China's stance since then has been crystal clear. There is only one China. It's a mantra they've repeated, hoping perhaps it would become more accurate with each utterance. Interestingly, until the 1970s, most of the world recognized Taiwan's ROC, not the mainland's PRC, as the legitimate China. However, as more countries began to recognize the PRC over the ROC, Taiwan stood firm, conveying its own mantra: we cherish our shared history, but our destiny, that's ours to craft. While Taiwan transformed from an authoritarian rule in the 1980s to holding its first direct presidential elections by 1996, mainland China remains under the firm grasp of the Communist Party, maintaining its staunchly authoritarian stance. Yet, to label the Taiwan-China tension as merely democracy versus communism simplifies a more complex standoff. Now, the real thorn in China's throat is Taiwan's remarkable economic success. A term you might have heard, the Taiwan miracle, encapsulates this very phenomenon. After World War II, Taiwan was a poor agrarian island, but in just a few decades, it underwent rapid industrialization and maintained an impressively high growth rate, a veritable miracle indeed. Now, let's get down to the numbers game. In 2022, Taiwan's GDP per capita reached a staggering $32,811. What's even more eyebrow-raising is when you contrast it with China's $12,732 for the same year. One might argue, isn't China the world's second largest economy? Well, while size matters, it's not always about the vastness, but the value you bring per person. Speaking of value, Taiwan isn't just a splinter in China's foot, it's the very lifeline of China's tech pulse. Whenever you tap on that slick smartphone, speed through streets in your techie car, or dive deep into virtual worlds, remember, the heartbeat of these devices, especially their advanced chips, most likely comes from Taiwan, especially from the unparalleled Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Co., TSMC. Not only did TSMC account for 26% of global semiconductor production in 2021, but it is the world's largest contract chip maker and produces around 90% of the world's leading-edge semiconductors that are used for artificial intelligence and quantum computing applications, holding a near monopoly on the production of 5-nanometer chips. And China, one of the world's largest semiconductor consumers, relies heavily on Taiwan, importing around 65% of its chips from the island in 2020. Impressively, more than 90% of China's imports of the most advanced chips, smaller than 10 nanometers, come from Taiwan. Without Taiwan's supply, sectors like China's AI, military tech, and even their newest smartphone models would be paralyzed. So, while mainland China has been making a lot of noise, Taiwan has been making a lot of chips. Vital chips that the world relies upon. But it's not just semiconductors. Taiwan's entire tech industry has grown meteorically. While many countries floundered during the COVID-19 pandemic, Taiwan's tech industry, especially its semiconductor sector, took center stage. As global citizens shifted to remote work and online learning, Taiwan's technological exports reached all-time highs. In a time of global recession, Taiwan showcased its nimbleness and resilience with a growth of 3.1% in 2020 and an impressive 6.1% in 2021. This success story draws a stark contrast with China's current economic scenario. Recent data paints a concerning picture for Beijing. New local currency bank loans in July plummeted by 89% from June, landing at 345.9 billion yuan, approximately $47.64 billion. This is less than half of what the experts predicted and the lowest since 2009. But it's not just the borrowing scene that's bleak. The real estate market, once the crown jewel of China's economic rise, is wobbling precariously. Firms that were once stalwarts, like Country Garden, are teetering on the edge of collapse, and the ordinary Chinese citizen, well, they're not exactly radiating confidence, with consumer sentiment sagging like an old fence and youth unemployment sitting at over 20%. And if you thought that was the end of China's woes, think again. It's not just their economy that's dipping, it's their reputation too. A Pew Research Center poll spanning 14 countries showed that opinions about China are plummeting faster than one can say Great Wall. Shockingly, or perhaps not so much, a whopping 81% of Australians, 74% of Britons, 73% of Americans, and 71% of Germans now look at China with, let's just say, less than starry eyes. While Taiwan has been receiving curtain calls and encore requests, China's performance seems to be getting a less favorable review. You see, despite the heavy curtain China has tried to place around Taiwan with its One China policy, limiting its diplomatic waltzes on the global stage, Taiwan has been twirling around quite impressively. Sure, the dance card might be limited thanks to Beijing's strong-arming tactics, but Taiwan's tango has been nothing short of graceful. The world is slowly, yet unmistakably, recognizing Taiwan's starring role. But why does China, with all its might, not just overpower Taiwan? For starters, Taiwanese companies hold a 68% market share in the manufacture of semiconductors. Even giants like Apple depend heavily on Taiwan's advanced chip-making capabilities. China, in contrast, is playing catch-up. Despite pouring billions into its semiconductor industry and aiming for 70% self-sufficiency by 2025, China struggles, achieving closer to a mere 16% self-sufficiency. Moreover, the US restrictions on tech exports further cripple China's ambitions. Beijing realizes that even if it took control of Taiwan, operating its world-leading foundries would be next to impossible without access to US technology and expertise. But beyond economic considerations, Taiwan's strategic location is pivotal in the geopolitics of the Pacific. Taiwan is a vital component of the First Island Chain, a series of archipelagos off the eastern coast of the Eurasian mainland. This island chain acts as a barrier, restricting China's navy from expanding unchecked into the broader Pacific Ocean. Taiwan's proximity to the Philippines and Japan, both of which host substantial US military bases, means that the island plays a crucial role in controlling China's access to Pacific sea lanes. By maintaining a strong relationship with Taiwan, the US and its allies effectively contain China's maritime ambitions and influence. Taking Taiwan might offer Beijing a strategic foothold, but the repercussions with its neighbors, and more importantly the US, would be immediate and profound. Moreover, an invasion of Taiwan presents geopolitical nightmares for China. Not only would it jeopardize Beijing's relationship with major world powers, but it would also invite potential economic sanctions, reminiscent of the West's approach to Russia's actions in Ukraine. Such sanctions could be devastating for China's economy, and the prospect of armed confrontation with the West is just big enough a threat for China to swallow its pride regarding Taiwan for a while yet. Now, while it may seem we've been playing a rousing game of Whack-a China, let's not forget, every story has more than one side, and Taiwan is no exception. Within the green expanse and bustling cities of Taiwan, there's a sentiment of voices humming a different tune. Yes, believe it or not, some folks entertain the thought of unifying with China. Sounds surprising, right? Well, that is a topic for another day. Subscribe if you want to stay informed. For now, thank you for your likes, comments, and support. This is Living History signing out.